So let's get started. So this month's topic is best ways to save for college. We understand that this is by far one of the most stressful topics for all parents and families in general, as it is that major expense that everyone has, looming over them in 18 years after they have a child, which, if their child chooses to go to college, what type of college, there's a major expense that comes with that most, of course, parents would love to be able to cover if possible, and or at least support. So today we're going to really dive in on understanding the full landscape, really digging in on how much these things cost, how to save, and how to feel confident that you're ready to help send your kid to college. So we'll start with the true costs, move into the different types of vehicles that you can save for, and end with some tips. Before we jump into, though, the specific costs, it's important to look at some of the stats. And I think that student debt is a really big example of some of the challenges here, as I'm sure many of you on the call right now may still be paying off your student debt if you ever had it, and the challenges involved with figuring out and navigating that. So at the top, 71% of parents are feeling nervous about paying for college. So right off the bat, if this is a topic that gives you stress and anxiety, you're not alone, which is always, I think, a nice feeling. And that conversation should be had with other parents. And you should know that, bringing up this topic of conversation can actually be really productive. Right now, we have $1.75 trillion in student debt. The average amount is $28,950 per borrower. So this can be a major stress and challenge for your kids as they grow up and as they start to navigate their adult life. The goal is that we don't hinder them with some of this major financial debt that they have to dig out of, but we can really give them that platform to strive and thrive with by creating that financial foundation that can help support and pay for college. Most of this debt, 55% of students have taken out student loans for public four-year, and 57% of students from private four-year institutions have taken out debt. And really, unfortunately, and a topic that is so important, especially in Black History Month in February, is that 73% of this burden skews towards Black and African American students, which we know that we have to do a better job at, and we can through some of these vehicles and investment vehicles that we'll talk through. So how much does college truly cost? A lot, unfortunately. It is one of those things that is unavoidable. But as we look at, there are two major distinctions when you're looking at spending for college. The first one is public versus private. So on the public side, in-state college, there's definitely a little less average cost burden to the parent at $22,180 is the average public in-state college per year. And then on the private side, it really does go up significantly, around that $50,000 mark. So it's important when you're really looking at and thinking about how to navigate what the expectations are that you'll be able to afford and that your kid will fit best in. One of the most important things, though, as you can see here, is that college does have a rate of increasing about 5% year over year. So that is something to be very attuned to, because college today will cost a lot more than college tomorrow. And so when we look at college in 18 years, we can see that there's going to be a substantial increase for the total amount, which comes to about $442,000. So almost $500,000 in 2041 is the burden that college will, the financial burden that you will have to understand and predict. So 1 year, you're hovering around a little under that $100,000 mark. So something that is extremely important just to grasp your head around, so it's not a surprise once it arrives. So I've added a calculator right over here that I think is really great to take a look at. as we explore these things that you can play with, right? So you can add your child's name. This is from Schwab, which has a good calculator. How old is your child? Let's say they were just born. You can click into here and you can play with what type of college am I going to expect. Let's do it just a private 4-year. We click OK. How much do you want to? How much can you put away per month, right? So this is by far the most important question, and this is something that you really need to sit down through your budgeting and look at how much money am I bringing in per month? What are my total expenses? How much am I spending on rent? How much am I spending on food, childcare, whatever it might be? And then what is that leftover amount that I would feel comfortable putting away every month and making sure that I sustain that every month for the next 18 years. So let's put $250 per month. Let's say we already have $1,000 that was saved, and let's put this to an aggressive portfolio. And you can see here that at $250, you and the total estimated cost of $567,000 in 2041. So with the 5% increase year over year that college will cost, we will be able to save about $118,000, which means that we are still, only covering almost the first year of tuition. That's if we're paying the total amount. Now, if you look at what it says here, you'll need to save $876 more per month to be able to cover the total cost of college. So that gets close to about $1,000 per month. Now, that can be, of course, a large number for many of us, especially when there are so many other expenses. So there are other ways to explore, how to cover that cost and tuition, which we'll get into. But a lot of people do find ways to get student loans or scholarships that can help to cover the total cost of college. And as you can see, if you end up only paying 80%, you are covering, the full tuition, and the burden will be a lot less that you need to put away per month. So something to definitely click and play around with, but generally that target number that you'll be looking and expecting to fully cover college and feel really confident when your child turns 18 is around $875. So definitely a big number and something to just begin to grasp and think through as you are budgeting for the future. So what are the different types of investment vehicles possible that you can actually invest in to save for college? The two most important ones that we talk about are a custodial investment account and or a 529 plan. So most of you have probably heard of both, but more frequently, what comes up when you talk about saving for college is a 529 plan. A 529 plan is a really great investment vehicle to explore because of one key thing. It is fully tax exempt when you apply that to accredited institutional spend. So that means all the money invested and all of your earnings, so all the money you make, is tax exempt when you actually liquidate those funds. So you actually need to use that money and apply it to college. So it really is a great investment vehicle to think through and plan for. A custodial investment account also has tax advantages, but the biggest difference of a custodial investment account is that it doesn't have to be only used for college. So some of it could be used for college. The other amount is the ownership of your child and becomes their own investment account. So this really creates more flexibility when none of us can predict what the next 18 years is going to look like and what a traditional 4-year college is going to look like, or university, right? With the boom in trade schools and boot camps and all of these exciting things, we really just don't know what it's going to look like. So a custodial investment account creates that flexibility. The biggest challenge with the 529 plan is that if you do not choose to apply that to college or accredited institutional spend, you will have a 10% penalty on that money once that is liquidated if it is used for something else. So that's a really big, important point to know. The other, though, really important piece of a 529 plan is that it's transferable. So let's say your first kid decides not to go to college, maybe starts their first business or does something really exciting and fun that isn't college. But the second kid that is 3 years younger does decide to go to college. You can transfer that 529 beneficiary from your first child over to the second. So there is some positive flexibility there. So when you think about a 529 plan, let's dig in a little bit. 529 plans are interesting because they are state by state. So it makes them a little bit more complicated and really, really important for you to do your research. When you're looking at a 529 plan, as I just mentioned, one of the most important things is your location. So what state do you live in? And digging in on the benefits of that 529 plan. So each state has a large financial institution that sponsors that state 529 plan. So like Fidelity will sponsor a lot of them. BlackRock will sponsor a lot of them. And so they construct these plans that then you opt into and start investing in. So the location is really important. Some of them have different features and capabilities. So different types of investments, different models that you can create. Then others have, historical performance that's important to look at, reliability, how long have they been around, and then the cost. There is, of course, a cost to a 529 plan. So some of the ones that we like to look at, I've added a link here, is at savingforcollege.com, which is a great resource. So you can do a quick cursory review here. You can click your state that you live in. It'll pull up the specific 529 plan that is available for you there. You can then, of course, click in to learn more. And then you can look at some of the best rated plans. So they have a really great rating system. It shows you the fees. It shows you some of the different features and capabilities, and of course, the performance. So definitely worthwhile to take a look at this because there are advantages to using your own state's 529 plan, but there are other 529 plans in other states that might be overall better that then outweigh the actual benefits of your in-state plan. So like anything, it requires a lot of research and just digging in and understanding better what you should really be invested fully in. So the resource is right there to click into. Next is digging a little bit more to the 529 plan. So as I mentioned, right, UGMA accounts or custodial investment accounts are really great because of the flexibility that they provide for a kid. Many of us may be able to even afford paying for a lot of college with our just own current financial situation. So the idea of thinking about how can we set our child up for the best opportunity for success is always a big question. We at EarlyBird currently offer a custodial investment account. And what is different about this is that it allows for really easy contributions to this account. So you can actually earn more because you are getting contributions from both, of course, yourself adding money per month, but Uncle Jordan or family and friends are also really easily able to contribute. And the power of compounding interest is truly amazing and could end up creating more of a financial foundation than a 529 plan if used and has that extra income of investments from family and friends. Then that money can, of course, be applied to education, but it can also be used for so many other important things in life, like buying your first home or putting a down payment, traveling, your wedding, seeding your first business, if that is what you really want to be doing. So what we look at is how do you balance both? The most important question is when I look at the total amount I can put away. So let's say it's $500 a month is what I can put away for my kid per month. Then we want to look at most likely opening both types of accounts, a 529 plan and a custodial investment account. Then you look at which what is most important to me, and what do I value most? So is it education, that's everything? Then a 529 plan, 50% of that should go, 80% of that should go into a 529 plan, and maybe 20% into a custodial investment account. Or is it really about freedom for my child to make their own decisions, but I still want to make sure we have some money for college, then maybe it's 80-20. Or are they balanced? Then it's 50-50, right? $250 in the custodial investment account per month, $250 into your 529 plan per month. That is really your strategy. Of course, EarlyBird is not providing any specific recommendation, but it is really up to you as you think through the values that you have and the biggest anxiety and stress on a financial burden that you're going to expect your child to have as they grow up. The last topic that I wanted to just quickly look into is financial aid, right? As I talked about at the beginning, financial student debt is, of course, a major challenge to think through and navigate, but it's also, something that can really help families send their kids to college. So definitely really important to look at. FAFSA is the most important primary organization that provides federal and state institutional aid. So something to really look into. And the average amount generally granted, it varies a lot, but you can expect around that $15,000 mark. And the last one is grants, right? Your child and you can apply for grants to be able to help pay off college that might not have the same added burden later on in life. So as you can see on the right-hand side, how are students financing their current education? Scholarships and grants really do take the majority amount of that financial burden. So something to definitely look into as your kid begins to go into high school and as you begin to have that conversation. I want to end before we open up the Q&A, because I definitely want to, answer and talk through any additional questions that you all have with just some of the key tips that everybody should really be considering and thinking about. The first one is making sure you take advantage and full advantage of compound interest. And that means starting today. If you have not started yet, it's the last week of last day of February. This is something worthwhile to take a couple hours today, tomorrow, over the weekend, and really think through, how can I just get started, right? Find the right 529 plan and start putting away money. Launch a custodial investment account. If that's EarlyBird, fantastic. If that is whatever solution that you find, amazing. But getting started today is everything. And the power of compound interest, if you can weigh heavier earlier on how much you're putting away, so it's not just evenly distributed, but say you can put away maybe $2,000 to start off the account, the power of compound interest on that $2,000 will have a much larger impact than if you just put away even amount month over month. So that's something to deeply consider, right? Can I put away more earlier on and take full advantage of compounding interest? The second is to just make this automated. So EarlyBird allows you to make this really easy and automated. Most 529 plans allow you to make this automated, but you just set it up, connect your bank, and set it every month. So you're not making that decision at any point. It is just an automatic process. The next one is really deeply understanding what is out there, right? There are major differences between public institutions and private, in-state, out-of-state, and some of the financial burden that's associated. There are amazing institutions across the board that are public and or private, right? They really run the gamut, and it's so important to do your research and understand what would fit best and what are the options for my child that I can provide that future for. Another one is looking outside of the traditional institutions and colleges, right? There are incredible boot camps out there that, engineering boot camps, if your child is showing really exciting interest in becoming an engineer or a developer, right? There's 6-month, 12-month programs that can be much more cost efficient and still produce some really amazing results. So doing your research and understanding what's available is critically important. And the last, and what I think is by far the most important, involving your child in this process. This is not something to shy away from or not explain to them that college is very expensive. This is really something that, costs a lot of money that we as a family are going to have to figure out together, right? That are many kids get jobs early, even in high school, to start to put away money for this, and or of course get jobs during college. I had a job. I know, the majority of kids get jobs that they can help to afford, maybe some of the board and stay during college. It isn't specifically tuition, or it's affording the books that are required. But whatever that is, the conversation and familiarity to understanding the burden of college and the cost there is really important, so that no one's surprised and that we are in this together as a family unit. So one of the most important things that EarlyBird always preaches and talks about is, how do we remove the stigma of money like this, right? How do we make it so the conversation is fluid and understanding from the earliest of ages all the way into adulthood? So those are the main tips to think about and focus on when you are going through this process. And I know we have about 5 more minutes for anyone to ask any question that they have. We have a way to ask questions right in the chat form at your bottom right, as well as if you would like to just jump on, you can actually participate and ask your question on the stage and have a little bit of a conversation if there is anything that comes up. Looks like, what are the distribution penalties for both options? So when we look at a 529 plan, the penalties here are that if you do not apply the money that was made within your 529 plan, so the gains, right? There's a penalty of, the IRS takes an additional 10% against that money that you end up liquidating, besides the capital gains that you'd have to pay. So that is something to consider, right? If you have one child and they don't end up going to college and they just don't need this type of investment vehicle, you still want them to have those funds. So you will need to liquidate the account, and you will have to take on that additional 10% back to the IRS. So that's on a 529 plan. With a custodial investment account, once your child turns 18, that account becomes their primary brokerage account. So just like you might have a Schwab account or a Robinhood account, if they do it with EarlyBird, it becomes their primary brokerage account. So they now will have these investments just as they did when they were younger, but they didn't have access to them. Now they have access, and they can continue to invest for as long as they want, and they will pay the standard taxes on capital gains when they liquidate those funds. So that is the cost benefit when it comes to the penalties for a custodial investment account of 529 plan. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions on that. Any thoughts on a custodial Roth IRA? So yes, custodial Roth IRAs are another type of investment vehicle that can be used. They are definitely important to add as a consideration, but ultimately there are limits on how much you can put away per month, per year annually. And so that creates a cap on how much you can actually put against, this large spend of college. So it is definitely something to think through and consider. I think what is most important, the biggest takeaway, is that these are complementary vehicles. These are not one or the other, right? You can have all three of these running and putting away money strategically as you see fit. The only thing about the custodial Roth IRA is that, the expense here is that we all saw is substantial, and you will need to be putting away more than the maximum availability per year on a custodial Roth IRA to be able to, pay for a substantial amount of the 4-year institution.
Hey, Jordan.
Hey,
Elijah. Doing well, thanks. I really like that other slide that you had up that had the comparison between the 529 and the custodial account.
Yeah.
Because the last line that you had on there, the financial aid impact, is something I
Yes.
haven't seen a lot of people talk about and kind of just plainly lay it out there, right? So
Absolutely.
I really like this point that you brought up. And um, on this point, I know, 529 plans have a little bit more advantage for that financial aid possibility for the students that are looking
Yes.
for grants and scholarships and everything. Is Early Birds looking at possibly getting into the 529 space, maybe a little bit further down the line after you got your feet wet in this custodial account space?
Yeah, no, great question, Elijah. And before I answer the second part, this is really important to understand. So everybody that is still here, when you think about getting financial aid, if you need it, the financial aid, FAFSA, will look at the entirety of your financial situation, right? So your annual household income, your property, all of the assets that you own. And so, of course, one asset that you will own or two would be your custodial investment account and or your 529 plan. So let's say you had $100,000 invested in a 529 plan and you had $100,000 invested in a custodial investment account. And these are separate things, right? So on a 529 plan, FAFSA would look at this and they would take about $6,000 worth of that, right? 6% of that total amount of your 529 plan, and to consider that against how much financial aid they would give you. So not that big of an impact. On a custodial investment account, though, say you have $100,000 and you're going to get financial aid and relying on that, they will look at 20% of the total. So that's $20,000 against your total amount that you own as a family unit. So definitely something to be aware of and understand if you definitely consider financial aid as an important piece to send your child to college. Uh, Elijah, your second question, yes, 100% early bird on our roadmap that we are working towards building right now is a 529 offering as well. Early bird will be the all-in-one investment vehicle for all of you parents out there to invest in your child and have all of the options necessary to build that better financial future for your kid. So we will definitely be offering a 529 plan. We already offer the custodial investment account. We also offer a crypto wallet, which is a way to invest in a more, a riskier asset with potential higher upside, but more volatility. But basically, when you think about your portfolio, you want a fully diversified portfolio. The more diverse, the better, right? So that's why having a 529 plan and a specific amount in that is a good thing. Also, a custodial investment account is a good thing. Maybe a small amount, like 2% in a crypto wallet, because you don't know what that asset's going to do. And it could really help your future, as long-term investing. This isn't about tomorrow. This isn't about next year. This is about the next 18 years and what's going to happen. So you want consistency, which is called dollar cost averaging across your entire portfolio. We will be sharing this deck. So right after this, you'll have the recording and the deck that will be shared in email right after, so you can dig in. And of course, please reach out to us specifically. We are a resource for you, and we would love to dive into any other questions you have and share those. We will be having this webinar every month, the last Tuesday of the month at 12:30 EST, so Eastern time. And next month will be a really exciting topic that we will be sending out in 2 weeks so that everyone can sign up and stay with us. Thank you all so much. Really, really appreciate the time. And we will see you next month.